why do you hate me? I didn't do anything to you. So like there's also the tone of the text message. And I don't know, I don't think that Gen Z has this problem. I think it's just millennials. Like the emails, you have to make sure that you use a sufficient amount of exclamation points so they don't think that you're being
angry.
short or angry or disrespectful. Like, you know,
Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cognomovement system. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello in UK Health Radio Land. I'm Liz Larson, and today I'm here with
Katie
and Leah.
Katie and Leah of the Cognomovement team. Bill is off today and will rejoin us next week, but this is a really special episode for us. I was talking to the team, as we often do, have a lot of meetings, and we were talking about how for their age group, which are considered millennials, that there's a lot of anxiety. And they're pretty open about talking about having anxiety. So I was asking them, like, what do you think this is about? Why do you think your age group has anxiety over other age groups? Or is that not even true? So, Katie, say what you said about that.
I think that people who are older just don't realize they have anxiety, or they count it as something else. Like anxiety is such like a new terminology, and that's something like all the kids have anxiety, but I think it's just not widely recognized in everybody. I think there's a lot of people who don't want to get out of their car in the morning to go to work. That's anxiety. There's a lot of things I think that really could be considered many different things that only millennials and younger have. That really isn't true. It's a party.
Oh my God.
And the internet agrees.
So what do you think about that, Leah?
I think what Katie said is partially true. And then I think there are other aspects to it. Like, you know, I think every generation has stuff that they're worried about, but I think for our generation, we, you know, in your 30s, you can barely buy a house. Like, we have such a hard time being around a ton of people. We hate going to the grocery store. And on top of that, now we're anxious about how much we're going to spend on at the grocery store. And, you know, there's that. And then I think our brains are different. I think our brains are altered from some things I won't say, but other things like the chemicals in our food, the chemicals and all of the things in our skincare and the things we wash our hair with, and like everything that we use has so much more chemicals than they used to have. And so I think our brains are actually altered, and they're just different in that way. We have so much more anxiety. There's so much more mental health issues with us as well.
Definitely.
I wonder if that's true, if there really are more mental health issues, or if your generation, millennials are people born around 2000, right? The year 2000, 10 years before.
1990 to like 2000.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true, that there is more mental illness or mental health issues, or if your guys are just more willing to talk about it and be out in the open about it. My generation, you really didn't talk about that stuff. People did not talk about depression, especially not young people, not kids, not high schoolers. Even middle schoolers are kind of throwing around the words depression and anxiety. And it's not like there's a stigma around it necessarily. In our age, like you just didn't talk about that you had depression or anxiety. those were like medical issues that you needed to go see a doctor about and you just don't talk about in polite society, right? For your age group and younger, it seems like this is part of the common vernacular. It's what people are talking about. And there doesn't seem to be a stigma around it. Like, there's not something wrong with you if you have depression or need help with that to see a therapist or even medication, or there's not something wrong with you if you have anxiety. Does that seem true to you guys?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's a lot of that and a lot of all the other stuff too. If you think about all of the issues that some of us in this room have, like both of us, about like even just like textures and different um just textures and different anxiety things, like having drawers that are way too organized, and and
OCD,
like
right?
the specific things that we wear that make us feel good or icky, or like there's all of these different things that we have now. And I think a lot of people did have those things before, but I just think it's way more now. Like we're just way more sensitive in a way. I don't
Yeah.
really like that word.
I
but-
think generationally, farther as we get away from hunting our own food, there's a lot of things too that we don't know how to handle, or like our bodies are kind of like in a weird influx. Like you're not in flight or flight as much, but then you're in fight or flight or fawn over totally different things that maybe the generation before you didn't have. We're the first generation, we grew up with technology. Like we remember the time when there wasn't cell phones. Every person didn't have a calculator in their pocket, kind of deal.
Take death.
And yeah. So we have like a vast knowledge of technology where the people above us have a harder time with it, and the people below us like could do crazy things we never even dreamed of with their technology because they grew up only ever having it. But then you have all this anxiety within the online space and not just the personal space where there's already plenty of anxiety to have.
It's true. You said something we were talking off camera, Katie, that I hadn't thought of before. That before we might have been just in our homes, taking care of things. And if we went to the market, maybe there were a few people, our local villagers, maybe. And now you go to the grocery store, and at any given time, there might be 1,000 or 1,500 people in that store all at the same time. There's music going. There's all kinds of different lighting and things intended to get your attention, right? There's sound over the intercom of them talking about, sales, or maybe even just calling people to the front end. It is a massive barrage of sights and sounds and smells and textures. And I do think that maybe that is one of those things that's adding to this feeling of anxiety.
Impending
So many
doom.
things. Yeah, so many things coming at you at once. What did you say, Leah?
Impending doom.
Impending doom. Is that what it feels like to you? Is impending doom?
Anxiety. Yeah.
Existential dread.
Yeah.
Like it's always going to happen. It just keeps happening. It just keeps coming. There's more
Yeah.
and there's more and there's more.
Do you guys feel like that social media has added to that pressure? Knowing that at any given time you open your phone and there are message upon message upon message from people some people you like, some people you don't like, people that, are trying to sell you something. Do you think that adds to it?
Definitely.
Yeah, there's like, it's funny because getting a text message or getting a like message, as we call it, from Facebook or a DM, like any of that stuff, it's a dopamine hit, but it also creates so much anxiety because you don't know who it is.
Yeah.
And like, what if I don't want to open it and look at it right this second because I don't want them to know that I read it yet because I'm not prepared to respond.
Or you might forget to respond because everything else rolls in and then it's gone. We used to send each other so many text messages. We got in trouble because it was per text message that you had to pay. And now when I see a text from most people, I'm like, oh no, I have to reply. And then the worst part is, if they reply immediately, you have to reply again.
Well, I actually know something about this because Leah and Katie not only are part of the Cognomovement team, Leah is our chief operations officer, and Katie is in charge of our internet and our social medias and all of that kind of thing. But they're cousins and both related to me. So when the cell phones first came out that you could text each other, they learned how to text in the pocket without actually looking at it. And at that time, you had to pay by text. You guys remember this? Paying by text. And in a month, they had texted each other 1,000 times during school hours. So
Weird.
they're cousins, but they're also best friends. So it was a whole situation. But you're right about that. I think for older people, my generation, like if somebody texts us and we don't text back immediately, most of us don't feel any pressure about that. We're like, okay, we know we're busy. We'll text back when we can. For you guys, you feel like the message that comes in has to be answered immediately or you're leaving somebody hanging. Like, are there unspoken rules about that we don't know?
I think one of the biggest ones is like parents to their children or relatives or whatever, where you have this expectation of that person. So, like, if, like, for example, my uncle in Georgia, when he texts his son or his daughter, he expects them to like reply pretty quickly. And I explained to him one day, like, you don't know what they're doing, you don't know what's going on. Like, you can't just expect a reply right away. That's not how things work. My dad, when he texts me, he expects me to reply right away. But if I texted him, it wouldn't be the same kind of situation. He wouldn't have to reply right away, and I couldn't bother him or harass him about it. It's like a catch 22. It only goes one way.
There's also the anxiety of the tone of the message.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh, no.
like, that's why I'm always telling you, like, if you send me a thumbs up or if you text me K, I'm like, why are you mad at me? Why do you hate me? I didn't do anything to you. So, like, there's also the tone of the text message. And I don't know. I don't think that Gen Z has this problem. I think it's just millennials. Like the emails, you have to make sure that you use a sufficient amount of exclamation points so they don't think that you're being
angry.
short or angry or disrespectful. Like, you were worried that you're going to take it the wrong way. So I want to make sure that I use plenty of exclamation points. I'm not mad.
Even if it's like someone I text all the time every day, I'll rewrite the same text like 3 or 4 times to make sure that my point is like kind and normal, and it doesn't sound like I'm asking too much or there's so much anxiety there.
So you guys actually imagine the tone of that text being received on the other end. And so you're being careful exactly how it's sent so that it's received in the way you want it to be heard.
Yeah.
Oh
No one
my
can be mad
gosh.
because I made sure it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Well,
6 times.
Yeah.
and Leah told me this, like, you can't just put a K for okay. That's like rude. If you guys didn't know this, everybody out there in UK Health Radio Land, now you do. You cannot put K. That is like sarcastic, like you're answering K, fine, whatever. You have to actually answer okay. So when Leah messages me, it's OKAY. I'm like, that is way too many letters for okay. Like, what's behind this? What's the reason that we have to do this?
I don't know, because it seems like so different for each group, like age group, basically. Like
Yeah.
my grandma will text a thumbs up, and I know like that's normal for her. Like that's one of the 10 emojis that she uses that isn't a heart emoji. And it's totally acceptable. But if my dad texts me a thumbs up, I'm like, oh no.
Or like we text the thumbs up out of spite
Yeah.
because we want you to know we're mad.
So thumbs up is a bad thing?
It can be, but it depends on who you're sending it to or
Yeah.
who's sending it to you.
But for the most part, like especially if you don't know somebody and they send a thumbs up, basically like in my head it's like, great, good for you.
Cool.
But
Wonderful.
in my head, it's like, okay, sounds great. Like, sounds
Yeah.
good. Perfect. Okay. So if you want to say sounds great, good, like, okay, great. Like, meet me at lunch at 12 o'clock at this place. What do I do if it's not a thumbs up? Now you guys are giving
Awesome.
me anxiety.
Okay.
Or awesome. Sounds great. Can't wait.
That's
I'm
a lot. Why
excited.
can't I use the
See you
emoji
there.
thumbs up?
You know what's even better is okay with the smiley face emoji with the hearts around it. Then I
Oh,
know
that's
for
a good
sure
one.
that you're excited and not
Mhm,
mad at me.
mhm.
So you guys are constantly worried about if the person on the other end is mad at you based on the emoji or not that they send to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, it's real.
Or if you send emojis to someone and they don't send any emojis back, that's really concerning.
Yeah. Is everything okay? Did I
Yeah.
say something wrong?
Yeah. Did I send too many emojis and now you aren't using any? Because, like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Okay, and are we sure that it's not just you 2 that have
Yes.
issues?
Yes.
Or is this a thing amongst your age group? And have you asked anyone else?
Yeah. Yeah, I have
It's
about
something
the
that's
thumbs
been,
up and
yeah,
K
Oh,
for
wait a
sure.
minute, there was a
Plus,
pause
there's
there.
like,
I saw a pause, like, you 2 aren't sure if it's
oh
just
no,
you that
there's
might be a
like
little crazy.
videos on the internet and too of
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, especially the email thing with the exclamation
Oh, yeah.
points. That's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing on TikTok.
That you have to put the right punctuation to, so that the other person knows what the tone is, like and for people that younger than you, they need a lot of exclamation
Like,
points?
it's basically about the anxiety that you don't want them to misunderstand the tone of your message, so you have to use exclamation points so that they know you're not, like, being short or rude or whatever. I think Gen Z is the opposite.
I think so too. I think they use less emojis and they use like barely any punctuation.
Yeah.
But I don't think they think about it or that they care or they have that same build of
Yeah, no,
anxiety.
I'll text my little brother, like, "Hey, bud," and he'll text me, "What?" Like, they don't really
Yeah.
they don't have the same like, it's very even my cousin who's the same age as my little brother, they're 11 years younger than us, it's very, like there's not, like, a ton of emojis. Every once in a while, my little cousin will use an emoji, maybe, but, like, it's mostly just, like, a sentence, like, it's not
Or
anything
like
crazy.
I'll send a whole paragraph and then I get a okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a
Oh,
really
it's
big
good, but
difference.
is it good?
Is it good? Are we sure? All right, we are up against our first break here. So let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. And when we get back, we'll talk about what do we actually mean by anxiety? What are the emotions and feelings that go along with this? So for now, UK Health Radio, take it away. Okay, and we are back. We're here with Katie and Leah of the Cognomovement team, and we're talking about millennials and anxiety. So I have a meaning that I think anxiety means, and I'm curious about you guys. So what I think when someone tells me they have anxiety is that they have a nervous feeling that is influencing how they behave, like whether or not they go out in public or whether or not they're okay with talking to someone, even a stranger or someone they know, or kind of a worrying about the past or the future. So is that what it means to you two, or is it mean something else?
I think it could mean all that and more.
Okay.
That like pit in the bottom of your stomach, that like sharp, tight chest feeling. It really depends on the day and what's going on and who you're anxious about, or you have a conversation with somebody and then you think about it for the next 3 days or weeks until you see that person again. And then sometimes even like your cloud of weirdness that you created for that situation that may or may not be real, you bring the next time you see that person. And then you're also like, oh gosh, they just hate me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like, to put it in the most simple terms, it's like fear, worry, and just repeating thoughts about the fear and the worry. Like,
Yeah.
you have the heavy chest and whatever, like, feeling of anxiety is for you. For a lot of people, it's like, you're having trouble breathing, you got a heavy chest, or like that pit in your stomach, like, when you were a little kid and you knew you were going to be in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
that feeling.
Bouncing
But
or
it's like, it's this feeling that, like, it's like I said, impending doom, like something bad's going to happen, or like something bad is currently happening. And so that can be like like Katie said, with people, with text messages, with emails, with work, like it's all the time, you know, like when the people our age know this specifically, like it's a whole trend of like you really want to go out with your friends. Like you want to go out with your friends, spend a long time, you want to get dressed up, you want to have fun, but when the day comes, you're like, this is going to be awful. We should cancel. I'd rather be in bed. I don't want to get dressed. Like what if something happened, like anything, and you like have the anxiety, like you really want to do it, but you have the anxiety and you kind of don't want to do it. Like that's the whole thing.
And then once you have that anxiety and you try to get dressed, everything you own is hideous.
Yeah. Yes.
Nothing looks good, nothing feels good. Then you really don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And you sit on the couch.
Yeah.
So do you guys know people your age that don't seem to have that feeling? Or does it seem like it's everyone in your, I mean, I know it can't be everyone, but does it feel like it's a lot of people in your age group?
Yes and no. I think there's like people fake it better. You know, you have more confidence, you fake more confidence, and you don't see it as much. But if you talk to that person, they'd probably say, "Oh, yeah, I was nearly shitting my pants."
Do you
But
feel
I
like
just pretended it was okay.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who hasn't said that they have anxiety over something.
Yeah.
so you're saying that a lot of people, a lot of your peers definitely go the route of getting a medication to help with the anxiety.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, do you think that actually helps people? Have you found that people are like, yes, this worked for me long term and I don't have that feeling
I have
when I'm
known
on it?
sorry. I have known people who had it seemingly has helped, but it honestly just seems like it more numbs the feeling. I do have one friend too who it does seem to help her quite a bit, but like there was a day she ran out and she was working and it was terrible. Like
And they
she
get
had
withdrawals.
yeah, she had like way worse symptoms of her anxiety and I had to tell her like you probably just need to go home because it's only going to get worse. We worked in a gift shop where there were tons of people in and out all day and people weren't always nice. And that's the worst kind of place to be while you're spiraling like that
Yeah.
without any
Y- Yeah, that's a really good point. Any kind of a prescription medication is going to have effects that are not the effects that you are hoping for. They call them side effects. But I remember that Christiane Northrup, Dr. Christiane Northrup, years ago said, no, that's a misnomer. They're not side effects, they're the effect of the drug. And so you have to live with them as much as you live with the parts that help you. So it's always a big consideration about what those things do to your body and your mind, and your personality and all of that, while there's always a possibility of it helping you with the anxiety. So a person definitely has to weigh that out. So would you guys say like that anxiety is a disorder? Would you call it that? Or would you say it's kind of the norm for most people now?
I think it depends on how much you lean into your diagnoses. I think a lot of people use diagnosis as like kind of a crutch in their life.
An
Like,
excuse
Mhm.
almost.
yeah, like, oh, this explains everything, but it doesn't have to define your life unless you let it define your life.
Yeah.
That's true. I've heard of a lot of people that are now being diagnosed as adults with ADHD and things like that as well, and that saying the diagnosis explains everything. So I understand that. Sorry, Leah, I interrupted you.
No, I think that for those specific things, I don't think the diagnosis helps you. It's just like you kind of already knew you had that problem, and the doctor's going to tell you that you have it, and now you're just going to be medicated for the rest of your life and have a lot of problems. Like, I don't think, I think it's, like, okay, I have these symptoms, but I have a way to, I have a way to like fix that in my own body without having the problems, like more problems. I don't know.
So your opinion for you would be
Mm.
not to use a medication, to use alternative things. So obviously, you guys know about Cognomovement. Talk about that just a little bit. What have you done for yourselves? What do you do in your daily lives to help yourself with this feeling of what you said, existential dread, impending doom?
I several times have pulled out the ball, especially when it was like something pretty serious, like flying. I usually get anxiety for, so I'll use it like if I know something big is coming up, then I don't have all that dread coming with me. There'll still be like, I'm still going to be anxious getting my bag to the gate before the timeline ends or whatever, so that it gets on the airplane and gets to my destination with me. But it's not the same kind of waiting, toe tapping, waiting in line for TSA to go through, or knowing that TSA is always stopping me and checking something in my bag. I don't have those same worries the whole time. So it's not creating more of that icky energy and putting it out there.
So you do a Cognomovement session before flying, and that helps you get through it.
Yeah. Or if I'm having like a lot of big emotions that are I'm not really getting a handle on, I just am crying about it or whatever, then I'll get out the ball and work through it and also feel all those emotions still, but get them out instead of just spending my whole day focusing on whatever it is that's making me crazy.
Crazy. So what do you feel like it actually does for you?
I feel like it really helps calm my mind down. It usually gets me to almost a like basis of why I'm feeling that way. Like either I find a solution to stop feeling that way, or it just helps calm those errant crazy thoughts that are, it's not reality. It's my mind making up any and every crazy situation that could occur along the way.
So
Yeah.
does it kind of show you what's real a little bit more? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah. And help kind of clear that pathway of you're going to be fine. This is going to work out and everything's great.
What about you, Leah? What do you do?
I use it for anxiety things. It's like sometimes I forget that my ball exists, and so I'll have anxiety for a while and be like, "Oh my god, I'm acting crazy," and then like, okay, now I need to pick up my ball and do a session. So like I do it when I'm already feeling that way. Emotions are like at the highest, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do
I
my
got
ball,
that.
and then I like it because I nothing gets like dampened. I get to feel the emotions that I'm feeling. I still get to work that out. It's just like pushing the fast forward button instead of feeling that for days or a whole day. There are times where I start to feel anxious and I just keep making it worse because I keep thinking over and over again about the thing, or I am making it just increasingly worse, and I just have like the worst day. And so when I remember that I can just pick up my ball and hit fast forward on that, like I, um, it works so much better for me. And I actually forced my husband to do it too because of his anxiety.
It helps.
Yeah.
I think it's funny too. It's like easier to remind someone else to use their
Yeah.
ball than to
Yes.
remember to use your own. Like
Yes.
when I bring up the same topic over and over to Leah and I'm just like enraged or upset about it, she's like, hey, did you use your ball? Hey, what about your ball?
You need
You
to your
might
ball.
try your ball on that.
Yeah, it's well, first of all, for everybody listening, we say using your ball. That's a Cognomovement session because we use a thing called a Cognomovement ball. It's the tool. And it's true. I think one of the biggest things that happens with those of us using this kind of a tool is you become aware that how you're feeling probably isn't the truth of the situation. You guys say you're acting crazy. It really is that you all of a sudden recognize this doesn't feel good. And I know it is my emotional state that's probably making my mind think of something that's not accurate. It's not my reality. And so the ability to recognize that is a huge thing on its own. Sometimes even just recognizing it, like, oh, yeah, this is that thing that my body does again that tells my mind the world's ending. And it's probably not true. So let me see if I can do something about that, right?
Yeah.
And then it is very annoying when we have to have someone else remind us, but that reminder is so good because it lets you look at what you're feeling and decide what to do with it. All
Right.
right, we're up against our second break. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about that, about reality versus not reality in how you're feeling and how it, helps you manifest things in your life or not. So for now, let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. UK Health, take it away. UK Health, take it away. And we're back. We're in a very special conversation with Leah Larson and Katie Weber of the Cognomovement team. We're talking about millennials and their anxiety. And we ended the last segment talking about how you realize when you're aware, you can realize that what you're thinking isn't true. And that starts a whole series of changes. So, Leah, I'll start with you. Have you had this experience of having anxiety, having your mind go round and round, only to realize the thing you were worried about didn't exist?
Um, yeah. So 2 things. I've had the anxiety where I'm literally just like arguing with people in my head about things that I made up that they're arguing with me about. Like it's just like whatever my body is doing right this second, whatever signals it's sending to my brain are like you feel angry and anxious and everybody hates you and let's make up a scenario that doesn't isn't actually reality so you can just sit there and stew about it for like an hour. Like it's just like nonsensical, and then I'll like all of a sudden I'll be like, what am I doing? And like I'll get up and go do my ball, and it'll be, I'll do like a 5-minute session. Sometimes it's longer if it's like super extreme. Then I'll be like, oh, like those conversations didn't actually happen. That was just me. Or feeling like somebody's mad at me or whatever, and I'm just like thinking about it all day. I'll just do my ball, and it turns out that wasn't even a thing. Excuse me. The other thing is that it was the reality, and then I changed it, which is a totally different conversation, but, like, being, a lot of times with, work and customer service, and so there have been times where I was, like, really anxious that, um, this person who was having a problem was going to keep being mean, was gonna keep causing me a problem, like, I'm not doing something right, and I've actually done my ball and gotten an email from them directly after, and I haven't even responded yet, and they're like, "Hey, I'm sorry, that was rude. I was having a bad day. I didn't mean that." Like, so totally changed actual reality in that situation.
Yeah.
So changing your your emotional field changed the reality of what was going on in that interaction,
Yeah.
which is super interesting because it shows us that it's us.
Mhm.
Everything we feel creates what's happening around us. It's all us. And our reaction, our emotional state, our feeling pushes on them and they push back. When one of us changes how we feel, it creates the opportunity for everything to change, which is a pretty amazing thing. That's one of my favorite things about having this tool. How about you, Katie?
Well, I have a good example of that. I feel the same way. And now that I have the experience through Cogno Movement, a lot of the times you just realize things without even using a session or utilizing your ball. Like, I have a friend, and when I saw her, I felt like, I get hangry if I don't eat. So usually I'd be snacking all day, so nobody has to see it. But it was one day that I didn't eat enough and I didn't have any snacks. And I felt like when I left seeing her that I was weird, like that I was a little crazy. And then I was thinking like, oh gosh, she probably thinks I'm weird. Like where she's probably just being nice to be nice, kind of a thing. And the next time I saw her, I brought that same weird energy because I had been continuing to think about that situation. And I expected the next time I saw her to be awkward again, and then it was a little bit awkward. And then the next time I thought to myself, like, why are you doing this? Like, why have you created this weird energy and brought it in? You know that you're friends, you know that she loves you and you love her and that everything's fine. But when you show up, if you're putting off that weird energy, people are going to feel your weird energy. And the next time I saw her, it was totally normal. It was just me the whole time being weirdo.
Isn't
Which
that
isn't
so
anything new.
interesting? Did you ever ask her about it?
No, because I knew it was just me. People think like you think growing up your whole life, like people are thinking about me all the time. People are thinking negatively about me. Oh, they think negatively about my appearance or my clothes or my hair or my teeth, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, you get to a certain point where you realize like everyone is so internally focused so hard. Most of the time, people don't even notice. They have no idea what's going on in your head. They have no idea that you were feeling some type of way, and they're just living their lives regular and thinking, and probably in their own head, oh God, was I a weirdo in that situation?
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about a specific person and you're worried about it, probably the only reason they would have a thought is because you're the
already
one
thinking
sending it to them.
Yeah. Our energy is really powerful. You got to be careful where you're pointing it.
Yep, it's really, really true. So has that helped you guys change things in your lives? I know you just talked about two little situations, but does it help you change the trajectory of your life if you know that you can change day by day how you feel about things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, sometimes you forget and you have a morning where you're just having a terrible morning or things just aren't going your way. And you remind yourself, like, oh, I am okay. That was just how I was feeling today. Or you go see your best cousin and then you're like, oh, everything's fine. I was just overreacting. And sometimes the people you're around when you're already kind of hyped up like that, if their energy is also chaotic, then it doesn't make you, it makes it even harder to think in a straight line or get to where you want to be instead of manic panic.
Yeah. It's definitely changed a lot of things in my life. My husband was having anxiety he was having a panic attack every single day at work. Like all of a sudden it was every day. He was just having a panic attack. And so he was like, and then he would come home and sometimes he would have one at home. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, can I do anything? What's the matter with you? Like, I don't know. I just like feeling like I'm having a panic attack. And there didn't seem to be a reason. There could have been, I don't know, but I threatened him because when you own your own husband, that's what you have to do sometimes. And I said, okay, like either we're going to go to the gym right now and exercise so you can get that energy out, or you're going to take some vitamins because I know like B vitamins help with that kind of stuff, or you're going to do your Cognomovement. Like you those are your 3 choices and you don't get to choose to do nothing, like, because I'm sick of you being, like, miserable, and of course, I was compassionate and stuff, but there was no reason for him to be suffering like that.
Mhm.
So, he chose the Cognomovement thinking it was gonna be easy. And so I actually worked with him for, like, an hour and a half, I think.
Mm.
And it ended up being like a way longer session. And it was my first like real session doing it to somebody else. And he didn't he didn't have to tell me anything. I just wanted him to feel it, talk about it, whatever. And he has not had a panic attack since, and that was probably what, 2 years ago? I don't know. It was a long time ago. And he hasn't had a panic attack and he was having one every day. So it changed my life. It changed his life to be able to do that
Mhm.
and go to work and be confident and not have that problem anymore. And I've had similar situations with myself. So it definitely changes your life.
Well, I think for him, it probably changed the trajectory of his life as well because he really moved up at work in management. When you're at work confident and comfortable and sure of yourself, you get noticed, and that's what's happened for him. And what none of us knew is that he was having to leave the building because he was having these sensation of panic.
Mhm.
And I don't know, did he ever share with you, was there actually anything going on, or was his body just doing sending up the flares, pulling the fire alarms, freaking out for no reason?
Um, I'm not sure. He didn't, he said he didn't really know why. It really seemed like there wasn't like anything really bad going on. He's the type of person that worries about lots of things, like the worst case scenario kind of
Craziest.
person.
Yeah.
And so, I think he does that to himself, but there wasn't anything like going on that he would rationally be having that problem every single day. Like work wasn't terrible, like it would come out of nowhere, that kind of stuff. So,
And that one session stopped that chronic
yeah.
pattern?
Yeah, we haven't had to have a session since. I mean, I've threatened him with some sometimes, but not about
I'm
anxiety.
not sure that's the intention of the work, is to threaten people with it. I'm not sure that that's really
Some
a
people
thing
need
that
a
we do.
push.
Yeah, it's
Some people
true.
need a push.
It's true.
It is true. I mean, once you know that there's the ability to change the way you feel so dramatically, it is hard to watch people suffer around it. And like you said, we forget, like, there really are a million reasons why a body will do these things. I mean, it could be hormones for women, fluctuations in cycles, fluctuation in age, that kind of thing. It could be that. It could be solar flares. It could be the moon. And go ahead, Kitty, what were you gonna say?
One of the big things right now too is the end of the year.
Yeah,
Everyone at the end of the year, whether you actually think on it or not, you're assessing what I did for the entire year. Another
yeah,
year has passed. I'm gonna be another year older. So whether it's in like the front of your mind or way in the back, it's still happening. And that
yeah.
messes with a lot of people's feelings.
Well, that, and then in the Northern Hemisphere right now, it's dark, the days are short, there's not enough light. People have what's called a seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, which is all things that our bodies create a sensation for us that doesn't necessarily match the reality of our lives. So I was like, I just felt awful. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, wait, this is just a feeling. And I was able to take a big deep breath in, like actually readjust my body, and poof, it was gone. Just a reminder, this is not real. And I was talking to my husband about it, and he's like, I really don't know what you're talking about. Like, this has been a banner year for you and the Cogno movement and all the things. So sorry, I can't help because I don't know what you're talking about. And so he's looking at me like, did you do your ball? Because this does not seem right. And it wasn't right. None of it was really true enough to create that response in my body. It was just my body pulling the fire alarms for whatever reason. And I think that's the thing, because there are so many reasons, like some of the ones we talked about in the first segment that you guys were saying, just all the stimulus of life that creates what feels like chaos or a little bit of crazy. That when you actually are able to take a look at it, notice where it is in your body, experience it, and then choose, it changes everything. You can actually bring yourself back to right now, back into the real reality,
Mhm.
I think. What do you guys think about that?
Well, you can change your reality and go even to a better upgrade of your reality with it too.
True.
Like,
That is true.
it kind of seems like a shameless plug here, but I just think that it's really wonderful that we do have the tool. We do have the magic pill, and it actually can get rid of it. And like people are still human. You're still going to have emotions. But now when we're in fight or flight, we actually have a way to calm our nervous system down and actually see the situation as it is right now.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that's existed before, and it exists now, and it is the magic pill, and it doesn't the side effects are actually the good things.
Positive side
So,
Yeah,
I
shameless
may want to
plug.
do this every day.
Yeah,
What a
shameless
side effect.
shameless plug or not. I
you
think
know,
that's something to have.
Yeah.
it is really true. When you can take control of how you feel and therefore how you think, it makes everything else possible in your life, literally everything else. So it gives you a choice. I mean, that's why our book is called Suffering is Optional.
Mhm.
Sometimes you want to suffer for a little while, sit around in your sweats and eat ice cream, and then you have a choice. You're like, nah, I know this isn't real. Let me see what I can do to get myself back to current and present and now. Well, I have to thank you guys for being here. We're up against the end of the show for today. It's been really fun to chat about this from your perspective, to hear what you guys have to say. If you are out there in UK Health Radio land and you want to see our faces, come to YouTube, the Cogno Movement channel, and you can see our faces. You can also hear extended episodes anywhere that you like to listen to your podcasts. And if you know somebody that needs to hear this today, please share it with them so they know that they have a choice and how they feel as well, and that maybe they don't have to live with that sensation of anxiety. All right. Thanks so much, you guys. Everybody in UK Health Radio land, be safe and be well, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.